best person to have a very open, diverse conversation about key Black Lives Matter albums, especially now. There's, the protest was like a month ago, obviously with George Floyd's murder. We'll say murder. And as for the first album, we have got Kendrick Lamar's Good Kid, Mad City. In terms of, so what do you think about that album? Just on the basis, like the artwork and everything else.
I mean, I quite like this album. So Kendrick Lamar is one of my top 5 artists, go-to artists, when it comes to lyricism, because as a creative myself, that's sort of like what I pick up on when I listen to music. And when we're talking about the artwork, it's pretty simple. The artwork, I'm looking at the cover now, and it's just straightforward. It's just a car and probably out on his drive or whatever. And then when you're comparing it to the title Good Kid, Mad City, there's sort of like I'd say almost a contrast in it all, in the sense of when I'm looking at the album cover, I sort of feel like the car could represent the madness of everything that's happening, because in a sense, when you listen to the album, he's traveling throughout the album, he's out on a run or something with his friends. So yeah, I guess if you dig deeper in the artwork cover, then you understand a bit of the theme of the album.
Yeah, I totally agree. I know that we agreed on quite of the same track. So we've got Bitch Don't Kill My Vibe, The Art of Peer Pressure. We got Money Trees feat J Rock. We got Poetic Justice feat Drake. We have Sing About Me, Dying of Thirst. Compton feat Dr. Dre. The Recipe feat Dr. Dre, and Black Boy Fly. So that's the kind of tracks. Which one would you say that when you're having that day and you're just like, I need to just zone out, I need to just vibe, which one out of those tracks would you say that I gravitate to that? Like, that's the first one that you listen to.
The first thing I go to, it's usually Bitch Don't Kill My Vibe. That's like my go-to. So if I'm having one of those days and I'm just thinking, you know what, I need some, and I'm listening to the album, I'll go for Bitch Don't Kill My Vibe and Sing About Me. Dying of Thirst. So
yeah. No, I'm the same. I for me, like, my go-to would be like, it'll be Compton, because I just love the vibe, man.
Say what up.
Just to kind of like sonically, like, in your headphones, blast it up, and it's just I'm in my zone. I like The Recipe as well. That's a good track. I love Sing About Me, A Dying of Thirst. I love all of them. Man.
I think it's a really tough one. It's a really tough one to pinpoint one specific track that you'll go to, because I guess it's sort of one, you listen to one track and then you'll immediately gravitate to another track. So it's hard.
And what do you think about Black Boy Fly, especially with now?
I think listening to it now, it has it stands more as a track when I'm listening to it now compared to when I first listened to it, when the album first came out, and I was listening to it. And for me, just even like, looking at the title itself, Black Boy Fly, it just makes me think like, our Black men needs to be celebrated more, and I feel Kendrick as an individual, he sort of like brings across that proud Black boy joy vibe, So
I totally agree with you with that one. I feel like with Kendrick, everything that he does, it's so tactful, because he's always talking from his experience, or maybe other experiences that he's gone through. So he always put all his pain in his art, in his music. So every time when I listen to any type of track or whatever type of album, that obviously throughout his kind of journey so far, I'm always just like, wow, you know, I'm like, okay, you know. So
yeah, definitely, yeah,
man, we picked a good album for that one. Still picked a very good album.
Yeah, I agree, to be honest. Yeah.
I feel like it's timeless as well, because that came out, was it like 2014, if I'm correct, something around about that.
I'm not too sure.
Yeah, I think it came out around about then, or maybe like 2013, 2014, around about that time. So how old are we now? Like, we're in 2020 now. So, you know, I feel like a lot of the things that he's talking about in that album is so like significant to what's happening now. So, hey ho.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's so weird, because, you know, when I think of timeless music, I think of music that would relate even in the next 10 years. You know, you could still listen to that and relate to it. Like, even when we're going to get in like some of the Tupac stuff, you know, you could still listen to Tupac now and relate to it as if he was in those days. You know, so that's why I like, when we're talking timeless, that's what it means, you know.
Yeah, man, completely. So as a nice little segue, we obviously spoke about Tupac. I have the album is called, I can't, Strictly Format Ends, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I picked Keep Your Head Up. So that song right there is that song, like, whew, it's a very deep song. Even thinking about that track now, it's very deep. And I actually, I'll tell a little story. I actually heard that song first through Jhené Aiko.
Okay.
She did a cover of that, and I obviously, I came from a point where like I love Jhené Aiko, so anything that she was doing, I was always listening to. And then she did a cover of that song, and I was like, hold on a minute, is this a Tupac song? And then I went back, and then when I listened to Tupac, because obviously she was influenced by Tupac and everything like that, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, you know, I don't know, like, even just hearing about his story and everything that had happened to him, everything that he's gone through, watching the film as well. Is it For My Eyes? And For My Eyes Only, or something like that. And the film as well, and then watching that. You know, he went through a lot, and I felt like, obviously, he was gone too soon, and I felt like he had so much to offer to the Black community and to the world, in terms of like his gifts and, you know, the message that he was trying to say and portray to the world. So I feel like when I listen to that song in particular, especially what's happening now, it's like it's full circle, because it still exists.
Yeah, definitely. That's what I mean. You know, like, Tupac is one of those pioneers that his music will always live throughout these times. You know, even with tracks like keep Your Head Up, you know, the message still resonates now within the Black society and the Black community. So his voice is definitely one of those voices that, if he was still alive, he would have made a huge impact.
Yeah, completely agree. So you have Jay-Z, Reasonable Doubt.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite albums. That's my favorite album, to be fair, of Jay-Z, Reasonable Doubt. To me, I just feel like Jay-Z as an individual, as a Black man, since we're, you know, looking at the whole Black Lives Matters, Black movement and so forth, I feel like as a Black man, from where he came from, you know, he's turned his life around on so many levels, and he's given sort of like a good role model for other young Black kids, Black boys who are growing up, you know, who are hustling on the corners or whatever. You know, he's showing that his journey, like, showed them that you could go from being on the corner to actually being in board meetings with executives of such and such, you know, to even having your own companies. And when I look at songs like, so one of my picks were Can't Knock My Hustle, 22 Twos, Politics as Usual, and Dead President. If I have to pick one to represent the current situations that we are currently in, it'd have to be Can't Knock the Hustle, in the sense of that despite everything that's happening, like, you have to understand that you shouldn't let that affect your grind. You should still push forward, get your message across, still keep your eyes focused on what it is that you're doing, what it is you're trying to achieve. Because at the end of the day, what I notice is that some of these situations, sometimes it can have a toll on you as an individual, and especially as a man. You can, you know, because let's face it, it's mainly Black men who are affected by all these things that happen in our society. And it's like, if you become really, if you let it dwell on you, it might lead you to doing things that honestly you shouldn't be doing, you shouldn't get involved with, you know, just because you're trying to fight a cause. So when I'm looking at songs like Can't Knock My Hustle, it's like, yo, in a sense, it's letting you know, like, despite what's happening, don't let it take away your joy. Keep grinding, keep doing what you got to do, because at the end of the day, you still have a point to prove, still put in the work. So it's politics as usual. So